Hey guys, Aaron here, back with another unboxing video, and oh boy, before I get unboxing, we've got a lot of stuff to actually unbox and some really exciting things to show you today that I've collected over the last few months. But since my last video, which I did featuring on this little card, which is one that I want to talk about very soon, I have been a little bit flat out and haven't had a chance to actually finish off some of the videos that I wanted to do. So if you guys are watching this and you haven't watched some of my wedding video stuff at all, if you're sort of new to the channel, very recently got married, and of course my wife is also now pregnant as well. So we have been doing a lot of stuff around the house. Every weekend I get a chance of sort of rearranging setting up the house ready to have a baby basically, and have a new addition to our family. It'll be our first, so it's definitely been a steep learning curve. So things have been a little bit hectic, and work's been a little bit busy as well. So that's why there's been a little bit of a lapse in videos, so I apologise, but I have been working on things behind the scenes, sort of every night after work when I've had a chance. I've been sort of working on slowly doing scripting, finishing off some of the like video concepts of ideas and things that I'm going to be doing very soon, and I've got some really cool videos and stuff that I'm currently working on at the moment. But I thought I'd give you guys a bit of a unboxing and share you guys some of the things. It's Christmas time, I guess, in a way, and I want to show you some of the things that I'm working on and have collected very recently. So quite a few of these are going to be, well, a few of these are going to be video cards, and we've got a couple of other things, a motherboard and bits and pieces. But let's just get started in with one really cool thing that we got. Actually, I'll start with the oldest item that I've had for a little while now, which was a new laptop that we actually picked up. So we actually picked up a laptop, and normally this is not something that would really interest you guys, but there's a reason that I'm mentioning it, is because it's very, very good for retro gaming, or at least in what I've used. So I picked up this laptop, which is an MSI Prestige model laptop here in Australia. I think I paid $899 Australian for it, so this is a low spec laptop, but it has a NVIDIA graphics chip in it that enables it to be pretty decent at retro gaming. So the specs of this are, actually I'll put the laptop in front of you actually so you can see it, and this is it here. I'll put it up the right way so you can see it's got a little MSI doodad on it. Runs Windows 10. Quite a nice, it's a 15.6 inch laptop, pretty basic, and I could probably do with cleaning that screen, I reckon. But we bought this specifically primarily for travel reasons, because we were previously using, for the last few years, my wife's old MacBook Pro that she got in 2010. And so this thing is like a Core 2, I think it's a Core 2 Duo kind of low end. It only had 4 gig of DDR3, I want to say. I think it's pretty sure it's DDR3. It's been a while since I've even opened this thing. We have got a custom little black cover on it here, but it is the normal silver model. But this thing basically shit itself. The battery died in it. The rest of the system works, it's just that the battery died, and it was getting a bit slow for what we wanted to do. So we needed to buy something before we went away for the wedding to handle all the photos and stuff. So I ended up finding this perfectly timed on PC Case Gear here in Australia. Picked this thing up, and it's been absolutely amazing. Now the reason I'm mentioning it is the specs of this thing are pretty abysmal in terms of current gen hardware, but it is just a Core i5 7300 HQ. It has an NVIDIA GeForce MX 150, 2 gig of memory, so that's a very low spec laptop chip. It's not even a GTX model, so it doesn't have support for shadow play and bits and pieces like that. 1 terabyte hard drive, which I'm actually upgrading to an SSD with an external USB 3 SATA drives. There's a little SanDisk SATA drive that I use for Steam library and copying large files like video files and stuff like that across on, so that way I don't have to deal with the onboard storage. 8 gig of RAM, Windows 10 XP, Windows 10 64-bit, Home Edition, so nothing too flash. But yeah, basically I took this thing and thought, look, it's going to be a low-end spec laptop. We're not going to use it very much, pretty much predominantly when we're doing travel or going away or going interstate. We want something that can just do a little bit of light gaming and handle all our photos and stuff. But I've never used this graphics chip in this particular model at all. I haven't used, I think the old MacBook Pro had a GeForce 250 something or other chip in, or 210 or 220 or something. It was horrible. It could do Minecraft, but that was about it. This thing, I was actually kind of blown away by it. It might be a low spec laptop chip, but apparently this is equivalent to some of the low spec GT 1030s, which again might not sound very much, but this thing will do Skyrim Special Edition, 60 FPS plus, so average between 60 to 70, and maximum details, 1080p. It'll also do Crysis 1080p over 60 FPS, and then any other retro game sort of between the two, 2000s up to like 2015, things like that. It will handle games pretty decently, and of course the newer you get, the slower it goes. But 1080p screen, everything like that, and it handles it flawlessly. I was playing Crysis on the plane on the way over when we went for our honeymoon, and it was quite awesome. But it's a really cool little retro chip, so if you retro laptop. So if you're interested in thinking you're not sure about this low spec, what it can handle, this thing will do Crysis 1080p over 60 FPS. So quite a neat little laptop. I thought I'd just mention that very quickly because it's something I wouldn't normally bring up at all, but it's a really cool little little machine. It's very lightweight, perfect size, and it's really, really nice. Alright, next thing is a video card. And we've got this little doodad here, which is a bit of a letdown and a disappointment actually. So this is just an FX 5200, just a standard FX 5200 in terms of its core and its performance. However, you might notice that the this thing has a coaxial out and another breakout thing with just a DVI there. This is actually a NVIDIA Personal Cinema card which I got that was supposed to be brand new in box with the standard Chaintech heatsink, the really nice gold heatsink and everything. I'll put a photo of it up just here for you to see. But when this thing arrived, it had a crappy little Gigabyte cooler on it. It was used, and the eBay seller basically lied, and when I got it I was very, very disappointed because not only that, it doesn't work. So it's dead, and yeah, it works in Windows 98 where you can install the drivers and play very light, like Quake 2, and it works okay, but when you try to do anything more demanding, it just blue screens instantly. So there's something wrong with it. Might be memory or something like that, I don't know. Can't see any damage to it at all. It's just, I don't know. So very disappointed, end up getting my money back and a bit of a waste of time. But speaking of FX 5200s, voila! The next card to grace my present. This is actually the newest item I've actually got, actually arrived the other day. This is a GeForce FX 5200 Ultra by Albatron. Kind of a nice, neat, clean example. Heat sinks for the RAM both sides. A nice copper and aluminium coloured cooler and everything here. And this has while it's not LED lit, the blue fan that's in here is actually UV reactive. So my Windows 98 PC, which has UV lights in it, shines this up kind of nice. So it's a very nice looking card, and of course it does have a Molex. This is kind of, it's quite funny, the FX 5200, the standard FX 5200s are kind of weak, unless you're doing like Windows 98 sort of 90s games, or maybe very, very early 2000s games. But the FX 5200 Ultra is kind of around the performance of a FX 5600. So it's actually pretty decent, and so this was sort of known as like the little engine that could, because this is one of the cheapest Ultras that you could buy out of the FX range, and of course across the entire FX product range, unlike the GeForce 4s, how they had like the MX cards that were cut down and didn't support all the features and stuff. NVIDIA in this generation had all the features supported across all video cards, regardless of whether it had the performance to actually power those features. So this card is kind of nice, and I haven't been strongly looking for FX cards in my for my collection at all, but when I saw this one on eBay, it was pretty cheap, and I thought, hey, why not? It's in good condition, and cool little card, and a nice one to add to the collection. I definitely like adding one of these, the personal cinema cards. These Chaintech ones are nice for what they are, as sort of a unique FX52. But this is a nice FX5200 Ultra. I kind of like having, actually. It's kind of nice, and it matches, in fact, the blue. It's a very similar blue to, well, almost. It's a little bit of a lighter blue compared to the Gigabyte card, the other FX card that I've got. So I've got two Ultras here. The lowest spec, oh, let me zoom out. I've got the lowest spec Ultra, the 5200 Ultra, and then the fastest spec Ultra, the 5950 Ultra GT by Gigabyte. So it's kind of nice having like the slowest and the fastest Ultras. Quite nice. maybe one day I'll manage to find an FX 5800 Ultra that I don't have to sell my firstborn child or my newborn child for. But anyway, yeah. Alright, moving on to, I've got another video card that I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, but on the topic of my Windows 98 PC, one of the things that I have been trying to find for a long time now is a capture card that can do VGA, and I don't have to do some kind of like RCA or coaxial kind of VGA to HDMI scaler or any random thing like that. I've been trying to find a native VGA capture card. This is the current capture card, my main HDMI capture card that I use. It's just the AverMedia Live Gamer HT. I can't remember the exact, I think it's the C985, there you go, that's what it is. And this thing's been working amazing. It has pass-through for both audio and the display signal, so it means that I can actually play without input lag on one monitor and then be capturing on the main system as well, which is kind of nice. However, this does not support VGA, so you can't have like a VGA to HDMI adapter or even like a powered VGA to HDMI. This thing just refuses to accept any VGA signal no matter what you do to it or how you have it plugged in. So sucks, but it's been good for what it is and I will keep using it for what it is. Then I ended up buying this little card here. So this is a little AverMedia card that does have VGA and HDMI input, and I got this relatively recently. This is the C199AF, or otherwise known as the C199B. Now Nathan from Pixel Pipes has this almost identical card that he's been testing and using, and he showed off a little bit earlier in the year that he got, and I've been trying to track down one of these myself because I've been trying to capture good footage for my Windows 98 PC. I want to be able to get some good footage of like my Voodoo cards in SLI playing like Quake 2 and some old games like that and old Need for Speed games, but I don't like setting my camera in front of a monitor just to show you footage, especially when you're really trying to show and talk about the video cards and the quality and things like that. It doesn't really do it any justice. So if you're wondering why I haven't had a part 2 to my 3DFX Windows 98 build, it's because I've been waiting for a capture card to be able to do really good VGA capture of it. So yeah. But you might be guessing, again, I've had bad luck with this because this card is Mac flashed. For some reason, I don't know why, even the seller doesn't understand, this card has been flashed for use in Macs. He had about 30 of these he got at an auction altogether, and apparently they all came out of a recording studio, or not recording studio, so a surveillance company that had all of these in Mac systems, and these things don't work on PC. So when you put it into a PC under Windows 7, Windows Vista, Windows 8, Windows 10, whatever it is, these will show up as an unknown multimedia device, but the drivers that are supposed to work with this PCB and this chipset from AverMedia, which you can still get, I believe it's the 127, the C127 whatever drivers that are supposed to work with the normal retail version of this card, they don't work with this. They install, but they don't detect the card at all. It's as if this card isn't what it is. So it doesn't work, and I was in discussions with the eBay seller about it, and in the end he just stopped responding, and I ended up having to go through eBay and PayPal to get my money back because this thing's useless. I might give it away. That was a bit loud, sorry. But I ended up finding another card, and I just spoiled it there for you. Finally, one of the other solutions that I've been trying to find, which sadly ends up usually selling for a little bit more money than what I'm usually happy paying for some items. This particular brand of card tends to sell for several hundreds of dollars, but I managed to find one on eBay for less than $100 Australian, and this thing has been brilliant, and that is this little capture card here. So this is a, I believe it's an Epiphan DVI to something or other, DVI to PCI Express something or other, not the Duo, the standard one. So it obviously just has a standard DVI, but this accepts full VGA with an adapter. And not only does it accept VGA with an adapter, this thing will record up to 85 frames a second all the way up to 1080p. In fact, sorry, I believe it does 75 frames at 1080p, but it will do, for like the let's say, Windows 98 resolution, so like 1024 by 768, this thing will do 85 frames a second, which means that I can have some really good refresh rates and have some really good good video capture for you for VGA. And I've been testing it, playing it with a few different solutions of how to use this, and I've been very happy with it so far, and it has been brilliant so far. I'm just finalizing how I want to capture to get the best quality out of it, because while this thing does have its own software to run, I've actually found the best way to get the best quality footage from 3DFX cards is to actually have this accepting the VGA input and then actually having OBS record using my NVIDIA graphics card in my main system as the codec, and then it gives me almost a one-for-one quality of VGA capture, whereas using the software that comes with this tends to drop the quality a little bit. So then when you end up uploading it to YouTube, it tends to drop the quality just to a bit where I'm not quite happy with it. So in that raw sense, but using the NVIDIA, I believe it's like the NV something or other H.264 encoder on my video card, and it accepting and encoding with this, so the GPU does the encoding essentially through this input, has been brilliant. So finally found a solution to capture VGA so I can work on my Windows 98 Ultimate Windows 98 PC Part 2 video and talk to you all about the games and the performance and how it's been going, because I've been loving that system to death. I just haven't been able to capture until like the last 2 weeks. So, right, next up we're going to talk about motherboards. And several years ago now, in fact almost 2 years ago, I bought this abomination of a motherboard. Wow, that's kind of bright. Let me just fix that. There we go. I bought this motherboard, which is the DFI Lamparty UT NF4 SLI DR Expert motherboard. And I bought this board with the intention of making it my daily Windows XP Athlon 64 motherboard with my two 512 meg 6800 Ultras, and going to kit it out with water cooling and everything. Sadly, this motherboard turned up with a VRM issue, and it blue screens whenever you put it under load. I've tried to fix it, can't fix it. I ended up benching it for literally 2 years until I managed to find another board that I was actually happy and confident in buying, because it's quite regular that the good quality, high spec, you know, full of all the overclocking features and stuff, Asus boards and the MSI ones like the Neos and the DFI boards especially have all had issues. They've had caps replaced and have been absolutely flogged to death, so you don't know if all the chipsets are working because of overclocking. So it kind of put me off buying another board for a little while. But I finally found one this year. I bought it about 4 months ago, so it would have been about 2 months before the wedding. And I basically got it, tested it initially, made sure it worked, which it does. And let's go and check it out anyway, because I've been very happy with it and I've been wanting to test it long term before I actually talk to you guys about it, because I didn't want it to be another one of these and then, you know, turned out to talk to you guys all about it, do like a part 1 video, and then suddenly it turns out that the board's actually dead and not working, and then I don't end up doing a part 2. So I kind of wanted to not do that and then make sure it's working first. So what board did I go with? This one. This is the Asus A8N32-SLI Deluxe, as you can very clearly read on the motherboard box. Of course, AMD's Athlon FX, X2, Athlon Sempron, dual SLI 16X PCI lanes as well, so perfect for Gen 1 SLI, which is really awesome. And of course it does support really good Corsair XMS memory, which is awesome. But yeah, this came in a box. It's original box. It doesn't come with all the accessories. I believe this actually came with like a little cooling fan and all this other bits and pieces as well. yeah, it didn't come with all of that. It didn't even come with the SLI bridge, but I've already got one. I've got a DFI one, in fact, so yeah. But testing this board out, I have been very, very happy with it so far. So let me pop it out here and show you it. I do have bits and pieces in here already, so let me just zoom it in for you. So this is the board. I do have RAM and a CPU in here already, which I'll explain to you what these are in a moment, because I've actually been using this and I literally pulled it out of the system just to show you it in this video. So that's why I've still got those bits and pieces in there. So this is a very nice motherboard for its time. This has all the features that you want for overclocking. Supports all of the Athlon X2 up to the 4800 plus. The FX chips also supports all of the Opteron CPUs as well. So if you manage to find an Opteron cheaper than like the X2 chips or the FX chips, you can buy one of those, and it works in it perfectly fine as well, which is what I'm running in here. It supports SLI perfectly. It runs really good. The only flaw with the board when it arrived is, as you can see, there's a yellow mounting bracket here. That's because the mounting bracket was missing. I believe the owner had a Zalman cooler which had a custom bracket that he wanted to keep when he upgraded, so he had lost the original black one that this come with, and the PCI Express tab here has broke off. Like, you've got the little clip here, but this one broke off, so there's no damage, it's just the clip itself broke off. So not to worry, everything still works. When you have the cards screwed in, it's not an issue anyway. So yeah, one owner, so this one hasn't been passed around at all. All original caps, everything's in really good condition from what I can tell. He was running this in basically a home PC with very little mileage on it from what I can tell. So it's in such good condition. Like, there's no... like, the copper is barely touched. It's not tarnished, which you can, happen. Like, if someone's been, if this has been handed around to a few people, you end up with like tarnishing on the copper and stuff as everyone's been handling it and fiddling with it and everything. And there's none of that. The copper looks brand new, as if this just come out of the box brand new. Like, same with all the ports and stuff on the back here. They all look brand new. There's no like excessive marking, no cracks or anything on the ports here, like where someone's pulled a ID ribbon and broken it or anything. It's in really good condition. But what am I running in this thing for the build that I'm going to be doing? And oh boy, are you guys going to love this build when it's done. So this build is going to be fully water cooled with CPU. I say fully, but I mean CPU water cooled, because I want to be able to swap some video cards in and out. So I'm not doing water cooling on the video cards, but as daily driver video card, I think the main card that I'm going to be running in here is my 8800 GTS 640 meg. But for testing purposes, I basically set it up running with my two 512 meg 6800 Ultras, and it's been running like an absolute dream. So currently got 4 gig of DDR 400 in here, 1 gig, 2 gig. I've actually got 4 matching sticks of this stuff. So this is the Chrome OCZ Platinum Edition. I've got 4 sticks of this. I managed to pick up brand new a couple of years ago, and it's been my main DDR I've been using for a little while now. But I also have, and I'll just grab it for you as well, I also have this stuff here, which is the Corsair XMS Pro stuff, which has the LEDs that run along it here. This is only a 2 gig kit, so 1 gig, 1 gig. But is it 1 gig, 1 gig, or... Sorry, it's 512, 512, so it's 1 gig in total. I'm hoping to pick up another set, or pick up at least a 2 gig set, so 1 gig, 1 gig. But because overclocking on this platform, you're forced to use T2 command rate when you're running like 4 memory sticks, whereas you can get away with T1 when you're just running 2. So that's why I'm using this, because I'm trying to max it out and use 4 gig at the moment, which is quite nice. But yeah, CPU that I'm running in here is, I actually got 2 different CPUs, so I'm going to be testing single core plus dual core, seeing how it handles it with like SLI and things like that. This is an Opteron 180, which, for those of you who do not know what that is essentially the AMD Athlon X2 4800 plus chip. So it's the highest end, apart from the FX chips, it's the highest end mainstream dual core. It's the exact same chip as what's in the 4800 X2, except that this one's marked as an Opteron. So it supports all the same stuff. It does overclocking really well. Yeah, it just runs a little bit hotter because of the... this one has some different voltage profiles in the AMD Cool and Quiet compared to the 4800 Plus. So this thing needs some serious cooling when you want to start overclocking it. So I actually use a Thermaltake silent... I think it's called the... it's the Silent Boost. Thermaltake Silent Boost. If you want to Google search what that is, it's up on my shelf. I can't be bothered getting it at the moment, but it's the big copper heatsink, and I actually am using a Vantech, an 80mm Vantech Tornado fan on there, just to keep it cool at the moment, just under stock speeds. But I will be swapping over to my EK block, which, as you can see, with the holes there, lines up perfectly and will work amazingly for this chip. So this is going to be a really good build eventually. So I like the chrome and the chrome. It's got some fingerprints on it at the moment, but yeah, this is going to be a really good build, and this is why I also haven't done a part 2 to my water cooling build, which featured my Lian Li case that I did earlier in the year as well, when I talked about the water cooling and stuff, because I was starting to look around because I wanted to build a system of this particular hardware in that water cooling build. So that's why I ended up with not doing a part 2 for that video yet, because I wanted to actually surprise you guys and suddenly go, hey, actually this is what I'm going with, because it's a little bit more suitable for what I wanted long term, because I didn't want to have to pull the Pentium 4 system apart just when I wanted to swap some other bits and pieces around with the water cooling, whereas this is I want to have permanently set up with water cooling and just give me a little bit of flexibility for swapping in some video cards, and that's it. So that's really exciting. Got that ready to go. I've already been testing it. It works brilliantly, as I mentioned, and a really good board full of features for overclocking. I love all the copper work on it. It's going to look really nice with the heat sinks and the chrome and everything as well. So really awesome. Right, last thing I want to talk about is this little card here. So this to you guys might look like a ATI Radeon 3870, pretty standard looking red cooler, nice ruby reference decal on there, red PCB, nothing out of the ordinary really. Maybe you guys might not have seen what the ruby standard decal looks like on the 3870 before, which I wouldn't blame you, and that's because ATI technically never released any retail versions of the cards with this decal on it. Well, that's that's right, because this is in fact an engineering sample card. This is actually the one of the later engineering cards of the revision of all the different engineering cards. This one is in fact from it has a date here, which is 19th of the 10th 07, so this is one that was right before the release, and given the wear and tear that's actually on the SLI fingers here, I believe this might have been one that they were using for like pre-release SLI, crossfire testing, to make sure drivers had SLI support and bits and pieces. So the card is basically it shows up in BIOS, shows up in Windows, and shows up in drivers and everything as just a standard Radeon 3870. So it doesn't actually show up as a engineering sample in BIOS or GPUs there. It looks like a standard 3870, not an engineering one. So kind of interesting actually. Has the same clock speeds, by the way, as a retail 3870. I've got 3 other standard 3870s, and it matched them clock for clock perfectly, and this ran with no issues at all. The only issue with this card is, in particular, I believe it might have slightly higher voltage because it was running a little bit spicy on the temperatures, and that's even after doing like thermal pad and thermal paste changing as well. So it was running a little bit warm, so I had to ramp up the fan a little bit more on it above the standard curve. But there is one tiny issue, and that is there's a tiny little SMD which is at the tip. You see you've got 1, 2 and 3. This one here is actually missing. which I believe is one of the voltage ones for this particular RAM module. So, unfortunately this card does have a bit of wear and tear on it by the looks of it. It, for some reason, didn't stop it from functioning. I ran Crysis benchmark in a loop 3 times just to make sure it was running 3D perfectly fine, and it did. And made sure I kept an eye on temperatures, and I had not only the fan running at 100% fan speed, but also I had a fan sitting on top of it, blowing air down onto the heatsink and stuff here as well, to make sure I kept it as cool as possible. I didn't want to put any excess stress on the card, given it's probably been through quite a bit of testing as well. So managed to pick this up pretty cheap as well. Let me correct that. Pretty cheap for a engineering sample card. Really awesome. This is one of my favorite generations of ATI cards. So while I'm not a collector that actually, goes after engineering sample cards, I am someone who's trying to put together an ATI collection with as many Ruby decal ATI cards as I can. And when I saw this one, I was like, I have to get it. So it's the perfect card, and I really have a bit of a soft spot for the 3870s because it's probably one of the few ATI generations of cards that I skipped. I went from having my 6800 Ultra to an X800, and then I think I skipped to a 8800, and then sort of moved up the NVIDIA chain from there. And I never ended up touching ATI after my X800 until my HD 5770. And now that I've been using, going back and testing both Crossfire and single performance mode, I really wish I'd bought a 3870 when they were new, because they were such good value for money, and the performance that I was getting in that compared to, the big 8800 GTS 640 meg that I had at the time, this card would have maybe been on par with a little bit slower than an 8800, but I could have actually bought 2 of these and actually been, better off, and had some really good Crossfire performance. So, and at lower power draw and everything as well. So these are really nice cards, and it's one of the ones that I regretted not using, so, or buying back in the day. So, yeah, that about does it for today. So, that's everything for now, guys. So thank you very much for watching, and this has been a bit of a long video. I apologise, but oh boy, it has been busy. Having a child is no easy thing, and especially we've basically rearranged our entire house and rearranged our entire lives almost to start obviously accommodating for suddenly having a family. So I work full time, and I've had barely any weekend time to actually do anything in any of the videos. So I do apologise to my dedicated viewers that are probably thinking, where's all my content? Considering in the past I've been like, hey, I finally had time to work on stuff. Well, when reality sunk in and, oh God, we're having a baby, actually my weekends have been kind of preoccupied quite a lot, especially spending a lot of time with my wife as well. So, yeah, she's been a little bit scared about the whole thing, and a little bit nervous as well, and a little bit unsure of herself and things like that. So I've been spending a bit of time with her, making sure we can transition into this new phase in our lives without too many hiccups, and that we're there to support each other. So yeah, but I'm trying to work on stuff and get as many videos out as I possibly can. I just apologise if they're going to be a couple of weeks or up to a month in between them sometimes, but I am still working on them. I'm still getting bits and pieces in, and I will share as much as I can. All I can say is if you want to keep up to date with as much stuff that I am working on, I recommend jumping into our Pixel Talk Discord server. We've got all these other awesome YouTube creators in there as well, including Nathan from Pixel Pipes, Mike from F2F Tech, some of the other guys in there as well. I think we have over 100 users now in the Discord, and we're always sharing a lot of stuff. There's some guys from Tech Power Up as well. We're always sharing everything. It's all retro related, so video cards, systems. We all share each other's content, link other creators' retro content as well. Obviously just talk about new content as well, but I will regularly post content updates of things that I'm working on, new bits of hardware, bits and pieces on there, as well as my Instagram as well, which you can just get on my YouTube channel. So Well, I might not have very regular videos at the moment on YouTube. You can get a lot more content and have a lot more up-to-date stuff, and even talk to me about things about my collection and editing in the Discord server as well. So thank you for watching, guys, and I will catch you in another one. Bye for now.